Hi everyone, it's Becky here. So welcome to another new video on my YouTube channel. So we're having a bit of snowstorm here in Vancouver in the middle of January. Today all the traffic in Vancouver is a mess. So I'm just staying at home, stay warm and safe, sketching the view outside my living room window, starting with a rectangular frame. So starting to draw this foreground element, the shrub covered in snow right outside the window. The blanket of snow on top and the foliage texture on the bottom half. Yeah, so that's the key element in the foreground. And then this is also a foreground element, which is the black metallic fences a little in front of the shrub. And a few green leaves, the vertical bars of the fence. So the world outside right now is like 90% white and light gray. So these black bars are looking really prominent in the blank world. So yeah, so I just want to accentuate them by drawing these bars very clearly as a foreground element. And yeah, DuDu is watching me sketching. And just doodling about a few more leaves there in the foreground. Now I'm moving on to the middle ground in general. The lamp with snow covered on the lamp hoods right there on top, and the walkway, which is a really loose curvy outline, suggesting the piles of snow on both sides. And then these fences of my neighbors' houses, they're looking smaller because they're in the middle ground, a bit far away. So these fences, they're really tying the whole sketch together in a nice organized way. And these fences are also kind of like rulers, helping me to find the alignment of other things like other shrubs, trees, in relationship to these black bars. Yeah, to drawing this other shrub and of the same species as my foreground element, way smaller because it's far away. And then drawing these loose footprints in the middle of the courtyard, drawing this crab apple tree starting with the trunk and then the boughs, the smaller branches and twigs full of snow. So all of these branches and twigs are spreading out, forming an invisible sphere of the tree's canopy. So in wintertime, it's actually a great opportunity to study the anatomy of trees when the branches are all bare. Now drawing this corner of the basement part of my neighbor's house on the bottom left of the crab apple tree, and on the bottom right of the tree is this basement section of my other neighbor's house. So before drawing any more house details, I want to include these beautiful snow-covered branches of the pine tree in the middle of our courtyard. Yeah, beautiful classical shapes of winter branches. So drawing is a way to see the world much more clearly compared to taking snapshots. Okay, so now I'm moving on to the main floor of our neighbor's house, the entrance with a black door, the little roof, and more living room window panels. So I really like these branches covering up, a large part of these houses, giving a sense of mystery. So when you're doing urban sketching of houses, it doesn't have to be a clean look of a house that's unobstructed by anything else. I love foliage surrounding houses because nature is always around us, supporting us. And I don't want the world to be all bricks and concrete. So when I'm doing urban sketches, you can very rarely see me sketching buildings only. I always love to add the supporting foliage or mountains, a body of water in the front. Yeah, because I believe we can never be isolated from nature. So I'm always grateful to see trees and all other plants, flowers. They have an invisible life that we cannot see with our physical eyes. Okay, so now I'm just drawing these lines of those houses behind the trees finding connections of those straight lines of the houses, and then writing down the time and a little note. So there are always traffic congestions in Vancouver on a snowy day like this, which happens a couple times in winter. So all schools and most workplaces are shut down. 80% of people are like staying at home on a day like this. Alright, so now I'm ready to paint watercolors, which should be actually very simple with super limited colors. Starting with a bit of diluted yellow ochre, because no matter how dark the day is, the shine is always shining with a mellow glow of yellow behind the thick clouds. So I started with a super diluted yellow ochre for the sky area and some of those foliage area, using viridian green, diluted slightly for the icy cold evergreen shrub. Yeah, same for that one in the middle ground. And same for the pine tree here, stretching out its arms, embracing this neighbor's house. Yeah, so basically the key for painting a winter snowy landscape is just to keep the color scheme very simple, and to start with very light values of cold colors, adding a bit of diluted cobalt blue mixed with a bit of royal purple for the sky. And DuDu is sleeping now on the little mat on the couch. Okay, so now it's time to paint in these windows. So the windows are reflecting the cold colors of its environment. Cobalt blue with royal purple, containing a little less water, it was more concentrated, a pretty dense color. Alright, so now it's time to level up the contrast in this scenery. So now, especially for the foreground element, the tone needs to be heavier. So this is the same color as the first layer. Viridian green with a little bit of cobalt blue and a tiny bit of burnt sienna, containing less water compared to the previous layer. So the snow looks more white around the green foliage when you intensify your greens surrounding the snow. DuDu is sleeping peacefully as I'm sketching the afternoon time away. Now it's time to use some leftover blue violets to shade the houses here and there. Yeah, and it's time to intensify these branches showing under the piles of snow. So as you can see, the snow looks whiter and clearer with the intensified green of those branches. Now it's time to gently shade in these footprints. The snow is very rarely a perfectly white blanket. There are always dents here and there in different shapes. So just shading that. That's it. And now I'm making myself a cup of hot tea and a few snacks before moving on to the next snowy sketch. Alright, so I want to sketch my cup of tea and my snack on the bottom of the page just to add a sense of narrative and a sense of my personal lifestyle. So starting with the outline of the cup, the opening, the body, and the handle like a letter C, the brim, and the liquid line of the tea. Now drawing this rectangular prism shape of a little pack of durian wafers that I sketched last time in the tutorial video. Accentuate the shadow, the areas, and drawing these folds on the plastic package. And that's very much it, the basic drawing part. Now it's time to have fun drawing the graphics on my mug, starting with the deer, the head with antlers, the body, and the very skinny legs. And drawing these branches of probably an evergreen and some little red berries surrounding the deer. And yeah, final accentuations, and I always like to write down the day and the date. Sketching in Sketchbook is very much like keeping a visual journal for me, so I always like to keep track of the day and the date and the specific times. So now it's time to paint these two things before the coffee gets cold, starting with a diluted yellow ochre and a little bit of brown, more concentrated brown for the middle part of the coffee surface for a bit of value transition. So the wafer package is plastic and it's very shiny. So I'm just leaving a lot of parts of the package white for the shine of the plastic surface, using a violet kind of gray left over on my palette to paint the exterior of the cup. The window is on the right, so the left side is more intensely shaded, the left half compared to the right half. And a little bit left over bluish gray to shade the plastic package a little bit. So my technique of painting everything here is wet into wet. As you can see, a lot of soft blendings when the previous color is still moist and not too wet. If it's too wet, the blending would be very, very flat and with low contrast. Okay, that's it, my quick sketch. So my next subject matter is the view outside my reading room window for the upper right-hand side of my sketchbook page. I'm going to attach my phone to the gooseneck tripod. So again, drawing a frame first. So this time it's a square frame, starting with a contour outline of the rooftop shapes. So a lot of triangles, big and small, and then these little columns for the front door area, the upper floor, probably a bedroom, and the triangular roof supporting the garage, accentuate under the eave a little bit. Now drawing this little tree in front of the house, starting with the trunk as always, and these major boughs and branches spreading out, smaller twigs, very loose and quick, and then this car in the very front on the bottom. This is actually a plant pot covered in snow, and the fence on the left. And now starting to draw this pine tree in the distance, towering behind all of these houses. Again, the foliage of the evergreens are looking so loose and puffy on a snowy day like this. And then drawing the outlines that I see of the branches of the maple tree in the foreground. Just to be very bold, adding these very long lines overlapping the scenery, which making this image even more dramatic with this strong foreground element. After the branches, I've got these twigs spreading out. So drawing trees is always a very satisfying for me as I'm tracing the rhythm of nature. None of these branches and twigs are perfectly straight lines. All of them are kind of bending a little bit here and there. And then now starting to add the windows of my neighbor's house right opposite to us. And then this is the front door. This is probably one of the bedrooms. So starting with a large frame and these smaller panels in solid brown, because windows during the day, they usually have a pretty dense solid color. Now it's time to paint watercolors before it gets too dark. So it's in the evening now, around 4:30. Wetting the sky area with a little bit of water and then super diluted yellow ochre. And same for the exterior of this neighbor's house. For everything that I paint, even the really cold winter scenery, I like to have some bright and warm and happy colors rather than those cold blues and violets only. I always like to find balance and harmony between warm and cold colors. And wet onto wet, this kind of an indigo color that I mix with cobalt blue and a bit of royal purple and a tiny bit of green. Painting loosely in between these branches. So the bottom half of the sky is of a slightly lighter value compared to the top half because of aerial perspective. This is usually how the sky looks like. The top part is usually a way denser color compared to the bottom half in general. And now it's time to paint these icy pine trees. This is a mix of viridian green and a little bit of burnt sienna and a little bit of cobalt blue, so the green looks colder. Leaving some white spots for the puffy snow on the branches. And now it's time to shade these white carpets of snow here and there with leftover gray here on my palette, just around the edges. And most areas of these branches are covered in snow, so just preserving those areas with pretty much perfect paper white. just a little bit of bark showing here and there. And keep it really light valued and simple. Shade under these eave areas to suggest shadows and giving the houses a bit more three-dimensionality. And now I'm mixing a more icy green by mixing Viridian green and cobalt blue together, this time containing less water, to do another layer for the pine trees in the backdrop, which looks really nice with high contrast, and using very choppy brush marks to skip around those chunks of snow on the branches. So these trees are landing on the central horizontal line for this sketch, so it's very important for them to look really strong and dominant with high contrast. And that's it. I'm just gonna keep these sketches very simple without overworking, especially of a snowy scenery. That's it. So here's the look of my finished sketchbook page. It took me about an hour and a half to finish sketching everything on this page. So thank you so much for watching this video, everyone. If you like it, please click like and leave me a comment below. Subscribe to my channel for weekly updates. So I update this channel with 2 to 3 new videos every week. And just taking more photos, maybe for my online classes. And this view outside the north window, you're probably very familiar that I sketched that view over and over again over the years. So DuDu is more of a wild cat, as he loves the snow, and he's able to bear the extremely low temperature. So it's like minus 12 degrees Celsius out there now, and he still doesn't want to come home.